They didn't just mock you. They scorned the divine, believing they could escape unscathed. But there comes a time when heaven's silence breaks. There's a moment when derision crosses a sacred threshold. For the narcissist who made your faith a joke, that moment is here. They didn't merely wound your spirit. They defied the holy, and now the God they ridiculed is stirring with righteous fury. This message isn't meant for all, but for the soul worn down by scorn, ridiculed and misjudged, not merely by anyone, but by someone who stared into your eyes and dismissed your bond with the divine as foolish. It's for the faithful who stepped away from the narcissist, not with vengeance, but with grace, trusting God to resolve what you could not. You didn't lash out. You bowed in prayer, and now God is rising to defend you. They didn't just deride you, they insulted the divine light within you. There are times when pain transcends the personal and becomes spiritual, when betrayal doesn't just wound your heart, it seeks to unravel your very essence. That's how it felt, wasn't it? When the narcissist turned against you, it wasn't only their words that stung, it was the contempt that followed. The way they belittled your beliefs, mocked your prayers, and scoffed whenever you spoke of God. The worst part? They did it not because you were mistaken, but because you were true. Because deep inside, they sensed something in you they couldn't sway, couldn't control, couldn't distort or imitate. You were grounded in a strength they couldn't comprehend, and it unnerved them. The narcissist wasn't merely annoyed by you. They were unsettled by the radiance within you, the serenity you held amid turmoil, the hope that defied logic. Even when they deserted you, you stood firm, not by your own power, but because a greater force upheld you. That's what they couldn't tolerate. A narcissist craves to be your sole focus, and when they realized Christ already held that place, they resorted to their usual tactics, tearing down, belittling, and discrediting. So, what did they do? They ridiculed the very source of your strength. They called you feeble for embracing mercy. They labeled you delusional for trusting God to restore what was taken. They sneered, "You think God will sort out this chaos? Or, do you really believe prayer will make a difference?" And they didn't stop at one jab. They repeated it relentlessly until you started to wonder if they might be right. That's the sinister nature of spiritual abuse. It sows doubt in the God who carried you through trial after trial, just because someone broken couldn't see his light in you. But here's what they didn't anticipate. They didn't realize that God's love for his children burns fiercely, protectively. They didn't know that targeting one of his own with malice stirs the righteous wrath of heaven. This wasn't just about your rejection, it was about the divine presence within you being scorned, dismissed, and defiled. Throughout Scripture, from Pharaoh to Saul to Jezebel, God has never remained silent when the arrogant drag his name through the mud. Never. He saw every smirk, every biting remark, every falsehood they spread about your faith. He heard every murmur as they turned others against you. He witnessed your private tears shed not from doubt but from trust in him, wondering why he hadn't yet intervened. He saw you kneel night after night, pleading, "God, do you see this? Do you hear what they're saying about you through me?" Yes, he heard. And yes, he took it to heart. You didn't just carry your own identity, you bore his. You were marked, chosen. Though wounded, you never wavered. You held fast to faith when others would have crumbled, remained gentle when others would have hardened, and clung to the cross when every instinct urged you to flee. Heaven has noted it all. Not one tear was lost, not one slight overlooked, and not one mockery will go unanswered. They believed they were humiliating you, but they were defying a sacred foundation. They thought they were ridiculing your vulnerability, but they were challenging divine sovereignty. Let this be unmistakable. God will not be scorned, not by narcissists, not by deceivers, not by those who think their wealth, charisma, or influence elevates them above eternal truth. Now the tide is turning. Heaven's quiet has ended, and the God they derided through you is no longer standing by. He is acting, not only to restore you, but to confront the spirit that dared to blaspheme his name. What's coming isn't mere retribution. It's divine justice. The narcissist won't just lose their status, riches, or reputation. They're about to face the God they doubted would ever appear. And you won't need to lift a finger or prove your case. Your tears have already spoken, your silence has proclaimed truth, and your faith, though ridiculed, is now the instrument heaven uses to rewrite this narrative. They mocked the divine within you. Now they'll encounter the God within you, not a distant deity, not a mere concept, but the living, protecting, judging God whose patience is vast, but whose justice is flawless. He will restore, he will repay, and he will remind every voice that scorned him, "You harmed my child. You harmed me." They assumed God's silence meant absence. They saw no immediate judgment, no divine thunder, and thought they were untouchable. That's the nature of pride. It mistakes delay for exemption, but those who walk with God know better. We understand that heaven's silence isn't indifference. It's preparation for something sacred. They lied, slandered, and laughed, and when no fire fell, they thought they were safe. They dismissed your prayers as futile, your faithfulness as meaningless. They mistook God's mercy for approval. But they failed to see this. God doesn't always halt evil instantly. Sometimes he lets it unfold, so his intervention is undeniable. The narcissist wasn't just mocking your pain. They were testing God's patience. Every insult they cast was noted. Every distorted truth they spread was etched in eternity. Every moment they exalted themselves at your expense, built their own reckoning. To the world, you may have seemed weak, defeated. But heaven saw the truth. You were persevering, and God was watching. Have you ever cried out in the dark, asking, "God, why is this happening?" Have you pleaded for him to clear your name, stop the lies, or shield you from shame? And yet, all you met was stillness. You weren't ignored. You were guarded by a God who works in his own time. He doesn't chase fleeting drama. He delivers lasting justice. And justice demands perfect timing, not yours. Now, the hour has shifted. Heaven is no longer passive. It is rising to act. The narcissist, who thought they escaped, will soon learn God sees everything, the charm, the false smiles, the betrayal not just against you but against his name, and he sees the pain you hid. Yes, you, the one who walked away without vengeance, who stayed silent as they tarnished your name, who loved despite being rejected and ridiculed. You chose the path of the cross over retaliation, and because you walked humbly, God now moves in judgment on your behalf. This isn't just the end of their deceit. It's the dawn of divine revelation. When God unveils truth, he doesn't just expose lies, he reveals the heart beneath. This won't be a fleeting setback for them. It's a sacred reckoning. The cruelty they sowed, they will now reap in full. You no longer need to fight for vindication. Heaven has taken your cause. The divine court has spoken, declaring, "Do not touch my anointed. do no harm to my prophets. Psalm 105:15. Those who scorned your faith will now see your favor. Those who twisted your truth will choke on their lies, and the one they thought would remain silent is about to speak with authority. So hold fast. Don't let their arrogance shake your trust in the God who delivers. Your tears were never wasted, your prayers never hollow. They thought God was silent, but now He's ready to roar like a lion. If this resonates, declare in the comments, God saw it all, and He remembers. Let it be your testament, your cry of faith, a reminder to the enemy that heaven keeps a record, and justice is already coming. A season of reckoning is dawning, and it's only the start. God's justice moves deliberately, but its impact endures. For years, the narcissist acted without consequence, weaving a life of deceit and facades. They climbed the ranks of influence, charming others while wounding those they quietly resented. And you, yes, you, were among those they hurt. You loved them with sincerity, believed in them with honesty, extended mercy they didn't earn and grace they never valued. In return, they ridiculed your faith and scorned your compassion. But now, the winds are shifting. This isn't a fleeting moment of trouble for them, no mere setback or stroke of misfortune. This is a prolonged season of divine correction, a dismantling of the throne they built for themselves. It's years of reaping the pain they sowed in secret, facing the anguish they inflicted, never imagining it would return to them. God does not ignore the oppression of the innocent by the arrogant. Their actions weren't mere personal cruelty. They were an assault on the sacred. They targeted someone bound by covenant, someone carrying Christ's name. In doing so, they didn't just wrong you, they defied God Himself. Now, the grace they squandered is fading. The drizzle they mocked is becoming a tempest, and their future is not marked by triumph, but by consequence. God isn't merely addressing an individual. He's unraveling a mindset that dared to elevate itself above His authority. This judgment is not swift. It's deliberate, precise, inevitable. God isn't just halting them. He's breaking their illusion of invincibility, not out of spite, but to shatter their delusion of being untouchable. They'll feel the unraveling, gradually at first, then all at once. Doors once wide open will inexplicably shut. Alliances they manipulated will grow distant. Wealth they flaunted will slip away. Even their strength may falter. Not because you sought vengeance, but because their own choices are catching up. This isn't about wishing ill, it's about understanding what happens when someone persistently, defiantly desecrates what is holy. The sobering truth: God will let them endure it. He won't whisk them away before the consequences unfold. They'll walk the same desolate path they once mocked you for surviving, tasting the sting of solitude, misunderstanding, rejection, and abandonment by those they once controlled. In that brokenness, they'll grasp the gravity of their actions, not just against you, but against God. This isn't fleeting. It's generational, cyclical. The wounds they inflicted ran deep, and their discipline will match that depth. You waited in quiet endurance. Now they'll wander in silence. You faced their scorn. Now they'll know rejection. You walked with God when no one understood. Now they'll stumble in confusion, yearning for clarity that won't come until they kneel and recognize the one they ridiculed. This isn't chance or karma. It's justice inscribed in heaven. Those who sow pride and cruelty will reap a harvest of regret. That season is here. The ground has shifted. The reaping has begun. It won't end swiftly. The years they spent trying to crush your spirit are now turning back on them, not as mere hardship, but as a divine humbling, crafted by God alone, unstoppable by anyone, even them. They humiliated you publicly. Now God will humble them openly. Humiliation is one of the cruelest weapons in the hands of a narcissist. They don't just want to hurt you. They want to destroy how others see you. They want to isolate you, distort your image, and leave you questioning your worth in front of an audience. And the most painful part, most people believed them. They spoke with such confidence, such authority, such false sincerity, that even people you trusted turned their backs. They smeared your name in rooms you weren't in. They told half-truths, dressed in just enough facts to sound believable. And while you stood in silence, grieving, praying, wondering why God didn't intervene, they were building a stage made entirely out of lies. But here's what they didn't see. While they were building that stage, God was measuring it. He wasn't just watching passively. He was allowing them to rise so he could bring them down in full view, because God is a God of justice, yes, but he is also a God of order, and what was torn down in front of others will be rebuilt before witnesses. What was defamed in community will be defended in public. What was taken in secret will be returned in the open. This is the nature of restoration when God is involved. It does not happen in the shadows. It happens in the light. When the narcissist ridiculed your character, they were applauded. When you kept quiet, they called it guilt. When you refused to defend yourself, they said it was proof you were hiding something. But what you were really doing was surrendering the battle to the one who sees beyond appearances. You gave it to God. And while the world moved on, he kept record. Now, the hour of unveiling is coming, and it won't be gentle. The people who once nodded in agreement with their lies will begin to see cracks in the image. Their charm will begin to falter. Their manipulations will no longer work. And those same rooms where your name was slandered will become places of revelation. Conversations will change. Perceptions will shift. Not because you spoke up, but because God himself has decided to uncover what was hidden. There is no escaping the hand of God when he begins to humble someone. And this time, it won't be a quiet humbling. It will be undeniable. They humiliated you openly. They needed everyone to see you as broken, lost, weak, and unstable. They needed an audience to validate their abuse, and in some seasons, it worked. You did look unstable. You were hurt. You were grieving. You were confused. But God wasn't. He knew exactly what was happening. He wasn't watching your downfall. He was watching your crucifixion, because crucifixions always come before resurrections, and resurrections always come in public view. This won't just be about their fall. It will be about your rise. But don't misunderstand. This isn't revenge. God isn't seeking vengeance. He's establishing truth. And truth doesn't whisper, it thunders. When he lifts you up, it will be unmistakable that it was him. No amount of damage control, public relations, or image repair will stop the exposure. No carefully curated persona will survive the weight of his judgment. And when he humbles, he leaves no doubt who is Lord. So, yes, they will fall. Not to punish, but to confront, to reveal, to humble a heart that exalted itself against his spirit. They laughed at you. They weaponized perception. But now they are the ones who will be seen for who they really are. Their words will return void, their influence will shrink, their following will fade, and your silence, your patience, your prayers will echo with the vindication only God can write into a story, because what man uses to humiliate, God uses to glorify. And the same crowd that watched you bleed will now watch you heal. While they're being broken, you are being built for glory. There's a sacred iron in how God works. While the narcissist was rising in pride, you were sinking in prayer. While they were polishing their image, you were on your knees, covered in unseen tears. While they were climbing ladders built on manipulation, you were walking through valleys where nobody applauded, nobody understood, and nobody stayed. And in that loneliness, where you thought you were abandoned, God was doing His deepest work. Because before God promotes someone publicly, He prepares them privately. And the truth is, as painful as their betrayal was, it forced you into a place where God finally had your full attention. Not because you were rebellious, but because you were exhausted. They broke something in you, something that no man could fix, something that no affirmation, no apology, and no reconciliation could ever reach. But where they broke, God began to build. Not quickly, not all at once, but brick by brick, tear by tear, word by word. He rebuilt your soul from the inside out. He didn't just heal you, He transformed you. This is a season of setting apart. You're stepping into a kind of freedom they'll never comprehend. Every believer reaches a point when God stops asking you to simply endure. Instead, He invites you to step away. It's a sacred shift, subtle at first. Your appetite for the drama that once entangled you begins to fade. You find you no longer care to prove your point, to correct the lies others believe, or to keep explaining your side of the story. Not because it's unimportant, but because you've grown past the need for validation from those never meant to accompany you into your next chapter. This is what holy separation feels like. It's not dramatic, it's not flawless, but it's genuine. Because true freedom in Christ isn't just about leaving bondage behind. It's about stepping into clarity, authority, and purpose. And as you walk forward, you realize that everything that felt like it was tearing you apart was actually shaping you to be unbreakable. That the relationship that nearly ruined you was actually the wilderness where God refined you. You were set apart, not because God abandoned you, but because He was preparing you. Now, as they descend into the mess they created, you are rising into a place of calm and restoration. As they cling to illusions, you're stepping into truth. And this separation no longer feels like a burden.